Hola a todos y bienvenidos a otra fantástica entrevista que tenemos preparada para el día de hoy, que nos acompaña el señor Nicolas Pham de Beaubleu. Nicolas, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us for a bit. How are you?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for welcoming me in your channel. Yeah, I'm perfectly fine.
Yeah,
Perfectly,
it's great.
everything is actually perfect.
Well, that's great. It's great to meet you finally. We've been trying to schedule this kind of chat for a while, and it's great that we both could finally get to it. Beaubleu is a brand that we've already seen on the channel. I think there's a lot to talk about. I have a lot of questions, but I think we're going to start with the most important thing, which is wrist check. What are you wearing today?
Nothing original, but at least for the founder of Beaubleu. It's the Vitruve that Hazte, so which is one of the last model of our just last collection. It's named Vitruve.
Vitruve, right. And we'll talk about that in just a little bit. I'm wearing my Union, which is the watch
Yeah.
that I've had for a while. It's a beautiful watch, and I've enjoyed it very
Thank you.
much, and it has received so many compliments. But we're going to talk about the design in a bit. Anyways, before going any further, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Like why Beaubleu? I know you started the brand about 5 years ago. What is your background and why watches?
I have actually a quite weird background.
Yeah.
The professional fencer
Oh no way.
when I was young,
Right.
and then I was like doing a sword,
Yeah.
épée in French, and then after I fell in love with like design, and then I get into like more. I specialized myself into car design, and more
Right.
specialized again like with in interior car design
Okay.
for a while. So that's why I studied, and then I worked a little bit in that industry. And but in the side, I was also very interested by like craftsmanship and basically,
Okay.
of course, watchmaking.
Right.
And then I worked for several like luxury brand in their watch department. And after that, I actually found my own design agency, and I work for different like startups or big brands, in
Right.
mostly in France or in Switzerland. And and then I was actually designing the high speed train for the French company, for a French company, and was a very interesting project. But I was kind of bored because it's a long process. You know,
Yeah.
everything needs the signature of the top
Right. A lot of
level. So
bureaucracy. Yeah.
yeah, I love bureaucracy, and in France, it's a
Yeah.
national sport.
Right.
So I was kind of not bored, but I have quite a lot of time in my hands. So I was like, let's design my own watch. You know, that's always been a dream, and but it was at the beginning just a very selfish pleasure. I was
Okay.
like, yeah, I'm gonna do my own design, and my actually I designed a watch project for my last year at school, at
Right.
university,
Yeah.
and so I used that design. I did like sort of a facelift, so to change a little bit on the case, but the case actually was like pretty similar to what you could see on the first collection.
Okay.
Pretty different, and the hands obviously very different. So I tried to redesign that watch, and then obviously when I came into the design of the dial, specifically the hands, I
Yeah.
did like I don't know, something very automatic, and I was like, okay, so straight hands, like regular hands. And I thought that the design was like kind of boring, and I couldn't even see the personality coming out of the
Right.
watch. And
Okay.
even if it would be like my own, I was like, no, I don't want that on my
It's
wrist.
not
So I was like,
different
okay,
enough.
so
Yeah.
yeah, it's not different enough. And even I could say, yeah, that's my watch, a unique
Right.
watch that I designed for myself. Uh, this watch was not, yeah, telling me a story. So
Okay.
so so actually I work again on my thesis. Was it was a very wide subject, was on the emptiness. So
Okay.
the emptiness, the new material, that was the title of the book of the thesis. And then
Emptiness in design.
emptiness in
Right.
design. Yeah.
Okay.
So that was a very philosophical research, but also very pragmatic because I was studying like architecture, fine arts, music, and so many aspects of where you could find emptiness and how do you use it in your art and stuff like that.
Right.
And so I actually, in my research, find some like sketches from Galileo. So a physician, a long-term physician, and then and so many different aspects where you actually, when you want to create, for example, like a very classical piece, like when you design the proportion before you get into the details, you start with circles. And to actually design a space and proportion, you start with a circle, and it could be and it's not a triangle or a square or something else. It's like basically the first symbol will be the circle. And I was like, it's interesting between the link between the space, emptiness, and time. I mean, like everything is linked in some way. So I was like, yeah, okay, let's do it. It was like a kind of a bet. So I drew like just two circles on the dial. And I was like, that's very interesting. So then I start like moving the circles and say, okay, so when it's aligned, it looks like, I don't know, 8. And when it's they're crossing, looks like, I don't know, planets or like a sort of a very graphic pattern. So I was like, okay, now the watch gives me actually the story at least to tell, and then I was like, okay, so it actually tells stories. So maybe the watch is not enough, and why not create a brand with that?
That's such a great story. Because I'm always curious about the process. Every designer is different, right? But I always wonder if it comes concept first or design first, and then, but it seems for you it was kind of organic and it just kind of developed together at the same time, and you found what you were looking for in emptiness in the circles.
Yeah, totally. And the thing is, like, obviously I'm a watch passionate and stuff, and I love some brands and some of their products, but the idea of like creating a brand, on the first place, I thought it was like kind of pretentious, because I grew up with like, kids, in high school where they're like, I have my own t-shirt brand on my hat brand, and they were like tagging and stuff. So I didn't want to have that weird image of it. So I was not like necessarily like so into it with the idea of creating a brand, but I was like, okay, let's do it. I mean, at least the product tells something. It tells a story, and I don't want to create a whole marketing plan around it. Just like I'm a designer, so it's basically the product who has to talk for himself. And so the everything was very organic. And when so the different brands that I like was like, okay, I don't want to do I don't know how you say, like homage, I don't know the word, but like, I don't want to refer to other brands or other codes because I think they do a great job. And I was like, I don't want the experience to just like be based on the logo or the name of the brand. It was like, okay, if I take off the logo or the name, is the experience, it's still different. Can you really recognize it? Is it like truly different? And so I did the test, and
I think you definitely nailed it. So Beaubleu starts in 2017, and you have released 3 collections. The most recent one called Vitruve. Is Vitruve, is it a French word, or does it relate to the Vitruvian man?
Is actually the Vitruvian man. That's the Vitruve is the French way to say it. Like the Roman one is like Vitruvio, something like that, and in English is Vitruvian. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Because I figured with the circles and the word, I thought it has to be related to that. But yeah. So talking about this last collection that you released, there's 3 different models in the collection. 2 questions. One, what was your inspiration? What are you trying to say with each of the 3 different models? And also, how hard is it to come up with a new collection that both resembles the DNA of the brand, which is very iconic, you have very specific design elements, but also that it feels different, right? Because you can't release the same watch over and over again. So how do you balance that between new but true to the brand?
I think we can start with the second question.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
No, the thing is, but that's a very interesting question, because when you come up with the first design, you're like,
Right.
okay, it is what it is. It's a bet, basically, because you could say it's the best watch in the world, whatever.
Right.
It's still your own opinion, and not very objective. So you just
right.
put the bet on the table.
Yeah.
Then you figure out that it works, so that's good. And when it's about the second collection, it was like it was quite natural. I was like, okay, that's they were the first sketch, and then I not really improved, but I just like, and I kept going, telling the same story. I was like, okay, so you have two hands, and it was like 42 millimeters. And then I was like, okay, I want to reduce it to actually for the women and men to be able to wear the same watch. And this with third hand with the cinematic on the dial was like kind of something different. So, and I changed a few details on the case. So that was like actually quite easy. And I wanted to put more color and try to find the right, the right tone and lacquer for the dial and so many other
so it kind of felt like an evolution from the first watch to the second watch. Like it was quite organic as well.
Yeah, it was quite organic. I mean, like I could come up with the second collection on the first place, but the idea was to actually introduce this new language. I could put like four secular hands, but people would be like, wow, what's going on? And I would be like, no, it's kind of enough bold, I guess, in the first step. So the two secular hands, and for them to understand the concept and understand the philosophy behind it. And then after, when they get used to, basically the early birds, when they get used to the concept, then you come up with the third hands, and they understand the continuity of the story. But for the third collection, that was a real surprise, because I mean, of course, I have like plenty of ideas of what could Beaubleu be in terms of design. But something that I was not really expecting is, so you did the first and the second collection, but the third one is like the step. It has to be like a very far step or a very close step, or if I could say. So that's the question. Like, are you? Should I do something super like disruptive, but like super even weird? Let's say like, don't worry, guys, we still have like a ton of creativity, but it may be a little bit too much and lost a lot of people on the way. Or do something too close to the second collection, and people will think like, it's basically the same. They're talking about limited edition, but basically, if it's still the same thing, like what's going on? So actually, like stopping actually the creativity at a certain level was actually very challenging, because like, is it bold enough? Is it like still in the continuity? Is it like, so all those questions was like actually not in my mind for the other collection, and even for the other when I was designing for other brands. Like basically everything was super organic, but like for the third one, I was like, okay, what should I do? Okay, I wanted to put the date, but the GMT was actually the last idea. So it was like kind of a big deal, but it was very challenging. So it was actually very nice to still discovering your own job on the journey. And so for the third collection, before I like jump into my table and start designing and sketching stuff, I was like, okay, so we're still always like very focused on the story that I want to tell. And for me, the raw material in watchmaking is very contradictory. It's not like stainless steel or gold or stuff like that. For me, the first base is actually time. If you consider time as a material, something that you can cut, freeze, expand. So all these lexical words that you use to talk about time. And I was like, okay, so basically it's like a piece of, a steel. You can like melt it, stop it, cut it, dividing the block and stuff like that. So I was like, okay, let's pick like some main conception of time. So you have on daily basis. So what you like, on every day. So actually the time of the day. Then you have something who's, as we say in French, like out of time. So I mean, like when you enjoying a party or when you're on vacation with your friends or your family, something that actually time doesn't really matter. You have a conception of time, but it's only based on your experience and the intensity of the action that you're doing.
And it's very different to time in a normal day-to-day basis.
Yeah. So because I was like, okay, we have time. We'd say that time is like universal and super, like there's a lot of norms about it. But if I ask you like, what time is it? And you're not busy at all. You say, oh, I don't know. It's time to grab a beer. And for you, it's like super efficient to say like that thing. But if I'm running with my suitcase in the street and I ask you the time, you'll say, oh, it's actually 7:21. And for me, and it's exactly the same time, but reality, the need is very different. So I was playing on that conception of time, and so that's why I came up with the first and the second, and then the third conception was like the universal time, like the time of the world. Like now, if my lover is like in New York and I'm in Paris, we basically don't live in the same time, but like our time is also different. So I come up with like a very poetic and romantic stuff, but it could be something else. But so the time of the world, and that's why I came up with the GMT display. Yeah,
that was such a good answer. I think a lot of the time when we talk about watches, we don't often talk about time, which is weird, right? Because watches are instruments for time. But I think we rarely ever discuss time both in a practical or an abstract sense. And I think that was a really great answer on taking time as the basis, as the concept to work around and figure out designs. That's awesome. So the first design, which you called Day, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one with the date. So the idea is that's the most precise, right? You have a perfect time and a date, and it places you in a very particular moment. And then the second design, which you called Solemn.
It will be the adjective, which say like something out of the time, but the word of it, the name of the name of the model is actually Origin.
Origin, all right. And then so that one doesn't have a date. And then the third one, which is Universal, that's the GMT, right?
Yeah.
Now, with the third design, the GMT watch, I didn't even realize it was a GMT watch until I read the description, right? From the pictures, it just looks like a normal watch with the 12 markers around. But what I did notice was that you can't see any of the crowns. Why did you hide the crowns on that one and not on the other ones?
Very good question. The thing is, as we said, is like actually designing watch is just the consequence of asking ourselves question about time.
Sure.
And there is like so many brands who do like perfect like tool watch, and that's actually not what we want to bring on the table. What we want to bring on the table is like a new experience or you question yourself with the time. I mean, it's a very ambitious question, but idea, but still, we that's what we want to do, and so actually having 2 or 3 or whatever pushers or other stuff around the case will turn the watch into like a tool watch, no matter what. Yeah. Something very pragmatic and functional. I mean, it is functional, but like the aesthetic will look super functional. Yeah. And I wanted people to focus actually on the information that you could see on the dial, and adding like this extra dial, this extra indication with the 12 hours.
Bezel,
so I in a way I was adding complexity. So I wanted to actually balance everything, and like, okay, so I add complexity, I add other information, but to not disturb you from the reading or the hands or etc. I was like, let's hide the crowns. And actually, well, it's actually a pretty cool objective to actually surprise, people. Like, oh, okay, but where's the crowns and stuff like that. And that's why the dial is a little bit wider. And for you to focus on what's going on the dial, right, and not be distracted by other stuff.
Right. Excellent. Okay. That's super. So you added something, but then you removed something to kind of balance the perception of the complexity of the watch itself. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the cool thing is like, well, it's with watch, but with other stuff, it could be like even with your own house or your own library. I don't know. The thing is like you see something on the first place and you say, okay, I know what it is. I understand and stuff. And with the time, you actually discover new details and new stuff. And because like no matter what, if you when you get a watch, no matter the brand or the model, if it's cheap or super expensive, whatever, obviously you're going to be a fan of it for the first week, the first month, or maybe the first year.
The honeymoon period.
The honeymoon period. But the thing is, like, it's like a relationship. I mean, you build, connection through time, and you discover actually new details and new aspects of the person or the product or the watch.
Right.
So that's why sometimes it's not bad to hide some details to discover them a little bit later.
Right. Okay. So 3 collections, 5 years. What have you learned in 5 years of Beaubleu? What is different now than it was at the beginning? Has it been an easy ride? Has it been more difficult than you thought it was going to be? Are you enjoying it more now? What has changed in the last 5 years?
I guess so. When you, I assume that when you start a project, you're super excited. So you're like a wild kid who's like, yeah, I'm gonna do this and that and stuff. So it's super interesting because like you're discussing with like a photographer, and 2 hours after is with like an artistic director, and then after it's an accountant, then after it's like a producer, whatever, a watch producer. So like you see so many different like people, and it's super interesting. Obviously there's some subjects who are more exciting than other. Sorry for my content, but the thing is, so that's I think the beauty of like entrepreneurship and doing all those things. But before, because I actually designed some products for other startups, I knew what would look like, how the journey would look like. Okay. So I was like, made a contract deal with myself, and I was like, do you want to eat pasta for the next 2 years? And I was like, and you've seen down the paper, and I was like, are you, Nicolas, where you want to eat pasta for the next years? And I was like, yeah, let's do it. I mean, it's worth it. At least I will try. And so in my mind, I was like, okay, I want to build that building, that watch maison, and it will take me 3 years to do so. And actually, I was quite surprised because, like, even with the COVID, we launched the second collection 2 weeks before the French lockdown, and we were not sure like how it will look like. And but actually, excited about the second collection. We even had like a selection for like the GPHG. So the Grand Prix d'Horlogerie de Genève, like the Geneva Watch Award. So we were like super surprised. We were like, okay, so we are next to Tiger and like Tudor and stuff like that. So, and Beaubleu is here. So yeah, we were like super excited about it. And now the thing is like, when you start a company, like you think like everything's going to collapse if you don't do it like right now. Yeah. And now I think I'm more wise, and I know so my rhythm, and I try to manage actually my time, reconciling the way I was seeing my time. It's not like it's actually it's something that you can change. So now I would say more wise, and I take my time to do the right thing. But you're learning a lot. So right now, like I'm at a certain level that Beaubleu is at a certain level that now he has to grow in a different way, because when you start in your little bedroom, and then after you work with a friend, and then you have your own office, and then after now we have our boutique in the middle of Paris, so that's super cool. But then the startup stuff is cool, but now you have to build more into like a proper company, let's say, like that. So it's new challenges. Now it's not just me, myself, and I. It's actually like, and I don't want that, actually, because like every time I discuss with someone, it always come up with a good after that, so a good idea or a good connection, or so. And one collection every 2 years, it's actually a good rhythm. It's a good pace. And because someone say like, but why you don't do like a collection every year or like something like that? And I was like, I think it's weird. Why? Like, I don't want to critique the watch industry, but like we pretend that we said that we design watch that you could last for 100 years or 200 years. So it's not related to trends. So I don't understand why we'll do like autumn and winter collection, then after spring and summer. I mean, like if I launch the collection now, or like in 6 months or in 2 years, if it's a timeless timepiece, I will not be bothered by the other trends that you could see in fashion or other sectors. So 2 years to actually think about it, like try to come up with the right story, and if it makes sense and stuff like that. Because at the end, if I have to design a watch every 6 months, obviously I will use the same watch that I did like 6 months ago, change the color of the dial, like that's a light blue one, and then it's a revolution. And I try to be more honest or creative than just like switching the dials.
I agree. That's a great way to look at it, and you're definitely right on how the concept of timeless timepieces versus new releases every like month is not necessarily in line one with each other, right?
If you pretend to do timeless, you are like, I'm actually designing super trendy watches. Good to know, and let's design a watch every 2 months or 6 months, whatever. But when you at least want to have something who's timeless, it needs the time of reflection and prototyping and to grow. And mature the concept.
So just to close things up, because I think we've covered a lot of ground. Tell us a little bit about the boutique in Paris. Congratulations, that's a huge step. And how does where's it located, in which region of Paris? And also, can people just show up there, or do they have to make an appointment, or how does the boutique work?
But the boutique was actually a huge surprise, because I'm someone who's very careful. I would say I do step by step the process. So for me, I was expecting a boutique like at the end of 2022. So at the end of this year, and actually, because of the success of the second collection and some opportunities in Paris, I was like, okay, let's have at least a little place where I can display the space, to display the watches. And we found actually a quite big boutique. Oh, really? So it was like a huge opportunity. And the thing is, like, because so many people like support us like from the beginning, and we were like, thank you for your support. Like we're growing so much, so well, and we actually there is more people working for Beaubleu, and that's so cool. At the end, when you say all those things, you want to prove also to them, and that it's not just words. That actually, it's real. we say that we are the best. Oh, we don't say, we are very proud of who we are, but like we say, everything is okay, everything is perfect, etc. But like, okay, stop the bullshit and like let's come up with like real stuff. And the boutique was a good sign for them and also for us that we were going on the right path. And so we find actually a boutique in the Marais, which is like in the center of Paris. And this specific area is actually quite funny because like, I don't know, 80 years ago, something like that. Almost 100 years ago, it was actually the watchmaking district in Paris. So that's where you could find all the suppliers and all the watchmakers who was actually fixing clocks and
you can still find some of them, right?
You can still find some of them there, but it's now it looks like more like a museum than something else. And the cool thing now is like there is some other brands or French brands also who design also, who create watches, and now we're like almost like neighbors, and we are in the same like district, which is cool because it creates like a real dynamic. And everyone can show up. We're actually open from like 11 to 7 p.m. And the good thing is like actually we have like what we call the showroom, but which is the boutique on the first floor, and on the second floor we have our office. So everything is like
so you're there.
I'm there most of the time, and our workshop with our watchmakers are like 5 minutes by walk. So if some people pass by our boutique and they want to see some of our watches like the assemble or stuff like that, like 5 minutes walk from here, and they can do it. So, and for the appointment, of course they could have they can set an appointment with me or someone else, and they have like just a very private moment, and I can like take more time to explain all the aspects of them
and try
watches.
the different watches and
excellent.
All right, well thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me for a bit. That was super interesting. I hope we can talk again sometime. I still have a bunch of questions, but congratulations on what you've done. I think you're obviously doing really well, and the watches are absolutely beautiful, and I'm sure I'm not the only one who thinks that. So thanks again, and you're welcome back here anytime.
No, thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, Nicolas, take care and talk to you soon.
Take care, too.
Cheers.
Cheers.